So at that point in time, I was like, I started understanding the market better. I started to see where the deals were. And, my sights weren't set on buying 10, 15, 20-unit buildings because I was probably thinking too small. So I started buying a handful of duplexes, we then bought, a triplex, quad. And we actually bought all of our properties between 2007 and 2013.
All right, so in today's podcast, we're going to talk with Marc Benoit. He is a client of mine, right? Didn't I sell you your first property, or
Probably the first 4 or 5.
first 4 or 5? Okay, and you worked with, I think, one of my agents at the time, it was Michelle, maybe.
Michelle.
Marc is, so he's been a client / friend for. Did you start in 2009? Was it?
06.
Oh, 2006. Okay. Bought your first couple properties. In between that, you got married.
I did. I married at 2010.
And your wife is, she helps you with the back end stuff, and she handles all of that.
Yeah,
And you did say, just shout out to your wife that you couldn't have done this without her. So
that's an absolute. She is definitely a bigger part of the business.
Marc is 62, so he got started late, man. You were
46.
There's some kids in my office. Jeremy was on the podcast. He started. I think he just turned 30, and he probably started when he was 21 or 22, which is pretty incredible. What spearheaded this whole? What started this?
So, I had been making my way through corporate America, knowing that every day was a hard day, and I was only 46 at the time, and 65, 70 might be the end of the life of corporate. And I was like, this just isn't the path I want to take. And I just had an idea that, we're talking about nothing real estate, it was just an idea. And I saw this advertisement for a weekend boot camp, and I said, you know what, I'm going. So I showed up at the boot camp, spent a whole bunch of money for a 3-day camp. And the man said before I left, he goes, if you don't buy a house within the next 30 days, you are never going to buy a house. Mm-hmm. So I bought that house.
You got that momentum, and you get out there and buy that.
I got to buy the house, and today I still own that house free and clear.
Which house is that?
It was 1446 Harlow.
Harlow.
Nice,
Okay.
Nice brick duplex.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice part of the city. So you still own that one. Is there any reason why you still own that? Is it sentimental, or has it just been that great of an investment?
It's been a great investment.
Yeah.
I bought it cheap. And today, I have a tenant that's been with me for 15 years. And another tenant for 7 or 8 years.
Is that a side-by-side?
Side by side.
What, do you remember what you paid for that?
$54,000.
54. It's brick.
It's all brick.
It's without seeing it. I know the area. What kind of rents do you get?
I doing about $1,700 a month.
But that place is probably worth $250,000 today. Close to it.
That's generous.
200 all day long. But yeah, I just looked at some today, and then I'm like, wow, that like 7 years ago, that would have sold for, half of what it sold for today. So it's a lot harder today, and I think a lot of that reason is the internet and sites like Bigger Pockets, where folks can go and talk to other investors and interact and learn the inside secrets that were secrets before. They're not secrets anymore, that's okay, but it's harder. It's just making it a lot harder.
Yeah, there's a lot more information out there today than there was 5, 10, or even 15 years ago.
Yeah. So what after you bought the first one, how's the next couple of years, and what did you accumulate in those couple of years? What were some of the pros and cons?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because when you start out as a real estate investor, there's lots of things that run through your mind. The one thing that I felt was first and most important was building that business plan. So that's what I did. So I, told myself I was going to start to flip houses to acquire cash. With the cash, I would start buying single-family homes, and I did both of those things, and I did them successfully. I did about 4 or 5 flips in the first 3 years, And with the funds that I made from the profit, I went out and bought inexpensive single family homes. Now we're going back to 2007, 8, and 9. You know, you could buy a 3-bedroom house back then for 50 to 20,000, put $5 grand into it, you know, it's still be a nice chunk of rent. So, but that really didn't work well. I mean, flipping is hard work. I mean, you really have to have good people, have a good team. Owning single family homes wasn't actually my thing either. You know, it was good until it wasn't. So at that point in time, I was like, you know, I started understanding the market better. I started to see where the deals were. And, you know, my sights weren't set on buying 10, 15, 20-unit buildings because I was probably thinking too small. So I started buying a handful of duplexes. We then bought, you know, a triplex, quad. And we actually bought all of our properties between 2007 and 2013. Then at that point, I was still in corporate America, and I was like, okay, here's the plan. So now that we have made the acquisition, I said, we're going to improve the buildings. We're going to make sure everything that needs to be improved is improved, so there's no deferred maintenance. And I said, we're going to pay them now. And then I'm going to retire early. So at age 58, it was, you know, October 2019, my wife and I looked at each other and I said, we're there. We're ready to make the last payment on our rental
Oh,
properties.
that's amazing. That's very cool. That was the last payment on all of your property.
And the single family home.
Wow.
That was it. So we were debt.
Someday I'll be there, but it's
Yeah.
wow, that's pretty cool.
So that really is the magic behind investing.
Yeah, that's where a lot of investors, they lose sight of. It's not a quick fix. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, you have some sleepless nights. You're like, why did I get into this? I know I had plenty of those.
And as you become a seasoned investor, I mean, I choose to self-manage my properties. Certainly, no property management is an option. But, you know, if someone says to me today, what do you do? I'm a professional landlord. I understand the landlord business. You know, when something happens, we just take care of it. You know, the panic is still, you know, initially there, but it's like, you know, we've been doing this long enough. Like, we understand what to do and we do it.
Yeah, there's not too many surprises after you've done it so long.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a surprise, you're like, that's not expecting this to happen, you know, at some point.
Just like a month ago, I had the FBI kick in one of my doors.
Oh my.
Not my home, but one of my rentals.
Goodness.
I'm like, oh, just another day at the office. I'm like, okay, kick it in. I can't. He's like, can you get here right away? I'm like, no, I'm not anywhere. Okay, or we're kicking in the door.
No.
Okay, thank you. I just talked to the guy today. I said, detective, because I think there's a way to get money for damage. And he's like, yeah, but that was an FBI thing. I was talking to a Pittsburgh detective. We've done it before once before with the city, you know, where they kick in the door, you know, they didn't call me out, but it's not easy. I thought, well, it's worth a shot. It's worth spending 30 to 60 minutes on the phone and see if we can get something like that. But yeah, those things don't bother me anymore.
They do, they'll destroy you.
I shouldn't say they don't bother me. They'll instead of bothering me for a week, it'll bother me for a few hours or maybe overnight, and then I'll be like, okay, move on.
We call it an irritation.
Let's talk about some of the irritating purchases. And it sounds like you bought some singles and you're like, okay, I don't really like this. I don't think it's I don't like the direction. I'm going to do what? I'm going to sell them, rent to own. How did you liquidate those?
Yeah, everybody goes through cycles in the game of investing, right? I mean, you know, people start at one place and end up in another place. So when I realized that owning single family homes was not really the path that I desired to be on, I actually went out and found my own buyer, and I sold all the homes to the same investor.
That was Jim.
That was Jim.
Yeah, Jim's a friend that we both know. And
But I had bought my first home in Harlem. While I was doing these renovations.
oh, he was working over there.
We had a property a couple of doors down. I introduced myself. We shook hands.
Oh my God.
We've been friends for.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I played in his band for 7 or 8 years. So that's amazing.
So you know what they say, you always make money when you buy it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I bought a good sound building that brings in $1,900 a month for $27,000. And that building today still stands strong.
Is that the 4 unit?
Yep, that's 2 unit on Tweed Street. So when I was advised to, get into different neighborhoods, I was like, no, only this is where I, started to, look, and I just found some decent homes on a decent street, a decent neighborhood, and I didn't really care about what else was around me at the time. I didn't have cash falling out of my pocket, so I was looking for good deals. And I found deals that were good. And then there were people getting out of the business. And I bought a 3 unit up in Troy Hill, and that was at the advice of some other friends of mine. And they're like, you gotta buy it down there. I thought, we're not going to Troy Hill. But you know what? I wish I had bought 10 properties up there.
And Troy Hill was one of those areas that it boomed.
Yeah.
It really did. And you're right, I wouldn't have bought anything up there. I'm thinking, no, I'm not buying something. I hate that area. It's so tight. The parking's like, I don't even know what attracts anybody there, but the key is that was one you got, you kind of got lucky,
So this was an 85-year-old man.
Yeah.
Who had purchased a building 25 years previous. He did all the major improvements, but he's like, it got tired.
So how did you pay them off so quickly? Because that's really an accelerated payment.
So my wife is a big part of the work that we do as a investing company. So she manages the money. I told her what the business plan was, and we were going to approve and pay it out. So she just, we never took any cash out of the business. That was part of the deal. The business is the business. We never took a dime out. So she would take, whatever cash was left over at the end of the month, and she would just apply it towards, multiple mortgages. And once that process was, trued up, the debt just started to fade away.
That's awesome. So that really works well.
I'm not saying, I'm the smartest guy, but a lot of it was just good fortune.
It's no rocket science. It's hard work, and it's, like you said, a business plan, and being patient.
Yeah.
That worked well for you. So now Mark is, so what happened is you paid one off, then now you have this extra chunk, then you paid the next one off, then this extra, at some point you were just nailing that principal balance margin just every month. It was like dropping like really fast.
It dropped fast in October 2019. We have planned by the end of the year in 2019, we were going to be debt-free, zero, not even a credit card payment.
Nice.
That's when the magic happens. So one thing that you and I have talked about from time to time is, you can do what you do and just keep growing, and that's great. I mean, you're growing your empire. I'm a little older than you are, and my sights are set on more towards retiring. So we have a small portfolio, and it always did. We were at probably 21 units when we had our max. We're now down to 15. But those 15 are healthy buildings. They're good quality buildings. And you've talked me out of selling them at least a half a dozen times. Right?
That's going to pay for your lifestyle. Yeah, and you took care. See, I'm in a different predicament right now, is because I have quite a bit more of that as far as number of units. They're not as high as a quality as what you have, and there's a lot of deferred maintenance.
Right.
So just over the past 3 years, I've raised rents about $50 a unit, and that's helped tremendously because I mean, gosh, I probably spent a couple $100,000 by the end of this year and just rehabbing old apartments, deferred maintenance, roofs, and I can see I got a lot of that coming up. So I want to get to that point probably the next 5 years where everything is just close to updated, and then I want to keep just a larger portfolio. And that's, I mean, I enjoy what I do. If I didn't enjoy it, it would feel like work.
Right.
But it's stressful, it's hard, but it's worth it. But it's a lot harder today, for sure. It's a lot harder today. What advice can you give to someone just starting out, whether they're 20 years old or 50 years old? What's probably in three sentences, or what's like, how can you precisely just get it down to the absolute nuts and bolts of what's the most important thing someone can focus on?
First, I would just say, if you choose to invest in real estate, know what you want to invest in. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I'm an investor, and say, I'm buying a piece of real estate. Now you're gonna flip, you're gonna buy a single unit, you're gonna buy a duplex, or you're gonna buy a 20-unit building. Just figure out what you think that is.
Be more focused.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because there's nothing worse than going out there, looking at all the shiny objects and that can lead you down a really straight hindsight. I would have done things completely different. But the plan is the plan. And we're working the plan right now.
Yeah.
Investors, I mean, there are a lot of old investors that are getting out of the business. Right? There's an old saying, how many 70-year-old landlords that are doing a great job. I mean, even though it is a great job, you get tired like other things, right? Someday you have to retire from corporate, sometimes you have to retire from real estate. So there's a number of these investors that are going to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 units. I mean, somehow you have to try and find them. They're out there.
Find a guy like Mark in 10 years.
Exactly.
And say, Mark, I'm interested in, you'd probably do some owner financing because that can reduce some tax benefits. I can have tax benefits, I guess, but then you get a return on your investment. As long as you do it right and you're smart about it, and you pick the right buyer, because you don't want to hold financing for someone who's just kind of maybe new or they're not liquid in any way. So if one thing collapses in their life, it's going to trickle down to them not paying you. So picking the right person's important.
Yes, that's like I should.
Yeah, and you've done one owner finance, and that was the guy that sold you Troy Hill.
No, that was a 4-year.
Right, and for 10 years you paid it off of 9.
$103,000.
That's incredible. Yeah, I did that on my second deal was my second deal or third deal. I didn't know anything. I don't even know how I came up with owner financing. I must have read a book or something on it. But I was 28 or 29, and I did that on a 6-unit. And where I made the mistake was I leveraged and I leveraged again, and I could have paid that off in about 6 years, but I didn't do that. I kept borrowing so I could expand, and that's kind of like I think where I made a mistake, because I dug this hole where I progressed rapidly forward, and then I got myself into this deep hole of debt and making bad mistakes and over leveraging, and then I had to dig myself out of that hole. So that added on years.
I remember those years.
Yeah, it was rough, but yeah, that's the one advice I'd give somebody is don't over leverage. There's everybody preaches it, it's cheap money, use it. Well, it's not cheap anymore. It's 7 and 8%, but there's something to be said about paying your shit off quick, and then just using that momentum to, you could, if you wanted to, you could have expanded, but you stopped at 2013. You stopped after 7 years.
Yes, I did.
But you could have expanded rapidly from there, because it was still a good time to buy.
It was, but I also still had a corporate job that was demanding a fair amount of my time. And, I would work literally 7 days a week, sometimes 16 hours a day.
Wow.
I did the labor.
That's what you did, both jobs.
I did both jobs.
I think up to you.
I agree. I mean, for someone if you could have, $500,000 or $1,000 of passive income every month for the next 20, 30 years, would you do it? Of course you would.
Nice. But you worked your ass off.
I
didn't realize that. I did not realize that Marc Benoit worked 60 or 70 hours a week with his corporate job, which was highly stressful. You said you were in charge of like 200 people. That's incredibly stressful. I'm in charge of like 10. And then you did this. Amazing story.
Well, it's my story, and today I'm 62 years old. My wife and I, just got back from Europe. We were in for 17 days. We're leaving for a couple more weeks here, another couple of weeks. We're now living life on our terms because of the hard work that we did in the previous years. And I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I said I would probably change my investment strategy, but I would still be a real estate investor. It's the best job in the world. To quote Alex Deakin.
It is. It's not a job.
It's not.
It's a lifestyle. It really is. It's like You have to eat, breathe, sleep it. I tell people that all the time. You really have, you don't know what you're in for. So you better really enjoy it and be driven. But the benefits far outweigh the hard work, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But again, it's whatever. I don't judge people. If you don't want to be a landlord, fine. Just do your 9 to 5 thing. Save your money and start a 401k and whatever. I don't care. It's just, but if you're gonna jump into this, listen to guys like me, listen to guys like Mark, some of the other people I've had on the podcast, and there's so much available to you online that you can listen to. You don't have to learn the hard way like I did and like you did. You really don't. You can bypass. That's the challenge we have now, because everyone is doing that. They are well versed in educating. So finding a good deal today, 10 times harder than it was just 10 years ago.
Yeah. But even guys like you, we share our knowledge. Alex, I called you numerous times just to pick your brain about this and that. And occasionally, sometimes you call me.
I like helping, because it's like, oh, I put all that time and effort in and I struggled. I love when people call me.
You want to give back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I see that true about most real estate investors. They just want to share their knowledge. But I'm happy to share the information that I've gone over the last 17 years, and I don't want to say what's mine is yours, but that's my mentality. I just want to have knowledge.
Well, Mark has also dived into lending.
Yeah.
And you just turned 57. When did you get licensed? How old were you?
60 years old.
60. So he said, now I'm just going to get my real estate license. I ain't got nothing else to do because I just quit my job.
Yeah.
My day job. I have a night job, which is being a landlord. So how did that come about? And what are you doing and how do you like doing it?
So great question. And I just want to say that since I call myself living in the business of real estate and knowing people in the business, it offers other opportunities, such as private lending, such as being a commercial real estate agent or a business broker. Actually, Alex, I came to see you almost 3 years ago, and I said, "Hey, I'm retired, kind of." And I said, "I think I'd like to get my real estate license." And I said, "I'd like to come and work for you." And you're like, "Do it."
Yeah, the barrier to entry is minimal. So you take 75 hours of classes and you take a test and you're licensed.
And I did it. I studied hard, passed it on the first test, and today I represent Deacon Hoover as a commercial real estate agent. And quite honestly, it's the space that I prefer to be in. Even though I own residential properties, I prefer the commercial real estate space. It's just a bigger space, it's a bigger conversation. Deals take longer to get done, but I just like it's just a more fun place to be for me, of course.
Yeah, for you. Yeah, it would be for me too, because it's more of a cerebral decision making process when you're working with investor commercial, where it's more emotional with the house buyer. That's not me.
So as a new investor, you want to be smart about how to do it. First of all, find yourself somebody you can trust, right? A mentor, a coach, not me necessarily, but somebody who at least knows a little bit about the business of real estate. Know what to offer for a property. I mean, you don't want to look unprofessional on your first offer, right? If you throw a low ball offer, you're going to lose the respect of the person that's representing you. So that's just one thing. Be serious about what you're doing. Right? Don't just, like I said, wake up one morning and say, "I want to be a real estate investor." Understand what that means. And that means taking a serious look at, taking cash out of your pocket or taking a serious loan to buy an asset. Okay, serious. Lack of humility. None of us know everything. Be humble, right? There's guys out there who, they're always one up on you, and they know more than you, and they're done by you. It's like, so be it. But be humble. Have a sense of urgency. Chances are you'll be working with an agent. That agent, is probably trying to feed his family with the work that he does every day. His time is worth a whole lot. So if you're not serious about what you're putting an offer in, I mean, in business real estate, there's a term called time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Do not waste anybody's time. Ghosting. There's nothing worse than when you pick up the phone, call an agent, and then the agent calls you back and, you disappear.
Right.
Don't make the call unless you're ready to do something, right? Well, not really, like, don't look for pretty investments. Right, so many people are turned off by the small things, like the bushes are overgrown, or there's a broken window, or the concrete is cracked.
Color of the bathroom.
Oh, whatever, right?
Here's a quick story. I took our accountant, I think Matt,
Yeah,
there's property right next to his office. I said, we should go see that. It's right next to your office, which he owns. So we went inside and it was a little musty. It's been empty while it's a duplex. I've been in worse. I've seen dead carcasses, not human, but animals and feces and truckloads of raccoon poop. And I've walked through everything. This was just an old musty house, and him and a few of his people, they wouldn't even, once they walked through the door, they're like, yeah, we're good. I'm like, this is where the money is. If it looks pretty, everybody's gonna like it.
that's right. So the last point I have here really is unrealistic, short-term goals, right? This is the long game.
Yeah.
Anybody who believes that they can get rich quick, if you find it, I want to know about it too. I'm pretty sure it's not out there. Anything that's worth doing takes time.
Yeah, that's all you see. Like that's maybe the downside of social media is, it's great because you can market yourself, but then you're as a person viewing it and trying to learn from it, you're only seeing these home runs. You're only seeing the grand slams. You're not seeing the 100 deals that went south. You're just seeing that one. And so that's hard for the average guy to like conceptualize, because they're thinking, well, that was a little deal and I didn't make much money, but that's probably 1,000 of the deals and you'll have one of this grand slam. That's the only one they have on social media, it's the grand slam.
Right. So you and I have been doing this long enough, you longer than I, but we all have our share of failures. But if you don't fail, you can't succeed. Because they always say.
The 9 unit I just sold, I lost $90,000 on it.
That's a painful loss.
And I'm making 100 or maybe 90 on the 4 unit. So there goes both, and then one appears. So now 10 years ago, losing 90, I would have been in like a straitjacket. I'd have been sucking my thumb in the corner, grabbing in my diaper. But now I'm just like, okay, move on. Yeah, you got to take the good with the bad. Make sure you learn from those critical errors. That's really, mistakes are okay, but if you don't learn from them, that's where the tragedy is. Not learning from that. Like, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
I remember back in the early days when everybody told me, don't do this, don't do that, and I did all of it. And I know why they said don't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But you're a new guy on the block, and you just believe that you're one of the smart people.
That's a fine line. Like you said, you have to be patient. You have to build your knowledge, but you also have to be time of the essence.
Yes.
Like you can't. You got to be patient, but you got to know when to jump on those deals. Like one just came across my email today. I said, Zach, you need to go look at this like now, like not tomorrow, not after lunch. So he called right away, and they're going to do a showing tomorrow at noon. There's going to be a boatload of people there. So, but we got a deal that way about 6 months ago. He was the first one there, and we were able to get in. We were able to get an offer for anybody else. Like literally in 4 hours. By the time I got the email, we had it under contract. But we made about $30,000 on that deal. It was a nice little thing. Yeah, that's the craziness of it. Where I see a lot of investors, they do it, they jump into it, they're running like crazy, just like I said on this deal, right? They're running to the deal, and they do this about 50 times, and they don't get anywhere. Then they lose their steam and momentum, and then they get out. So that's the thing about having someone knowledgeable or knowing the market, is I know when you have to be urgent, when you don't. That's really half the battle.
It's because you're a professional investor.
Yeah, because I did it a million times. But yeah, it's helpful. And then then he's my boots on the ground, so he's out there. Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. It's not going to be easy.
I would say, also, if you're gonna be a serious investor, you really do have to build a solid team. And that team consists of a CPA, an attorney, an anchor, even boots on the ground, your contractors. And I mean, if you're just picking up the yellow pages and calling whoever to come and fix your plumbing, you're gonna be broke in no time. Yeah, so if you guys are gonna be professional landlords, you got to understand that, and it's like to tell stories or don't always tell the whole truth, right? So a couple of years ago, I had a gas leak. It was in the middle of the winter, and I had to call a plumber, and they had to come dig up the ground, and and as a good landlord, I was there every day with them, making sure that things were getting done, keeping the tenants informed of what was going on. And I had a tenant on the third floor, and we had just remodeled the whole place, and it's gorgeous, right? And I'm standing on the curb, and like 6 people show up with their suitcases and pillows in their hand. I'm like, can I help you? They're like, we need to get in. Get in where? Like, we're staying on the third floor of this building. I says, I'm like, who are you? I said, you don't live here. I said, I'm the landlord. So turns out, at least we believe, our tenant was Airbnb on third floor apartment.
Oh God, that's hilarious.
And
That does not surprise me.
And had I not been standing on that curb on that particular day,
Right.
for whatever reason, I was there. I mean, we would not have known. 6 people show up with suitcases and pillows, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So don't say.
How did you handle it?
You know what? The people entered the building. They had a key.
Right. But what did you do with the? How did the conversation go with the tenant?
It was very unpleasant. It was very unpleasant. But you have to understand, and this is just another aspect of real estate buildings. We pay insurance premium every month, right? Every year these premiums go on. You have to keep figuring out how you keep your premiums down. Sometimes you have to increase your deductible in order to keep
Right. Yes.
premiums somewhat.
I do. I have the highest deductible. I have like a $5,000 deductible.
We accept that as
Mhm.
landlords.
Right.
We're gonna have to pay the first, 4,000.
Right.
So I was right. She was wrong.
So when you're 72, you'd be thinking, yeah, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's time to sell.
It might happen before that.
Now, you've done an amazing job. You're an awesome agent too, to be honest. You're hungry. They're hungry. You don't even need to be. That's a beautiful thing. I give you a lead and you're like calling them and following up. Holy cow, that's incredible, because you're not going to get paid like the one guy you just called that has the cars. That guy's not ready to sell in a while, a year or two, or whatever. But you follow up, you meet them, man. That's how you get more business, and that's how it rolls.
Well, you're going to become part of this relationship. You like cars, you like cars.
Yeah. You never know where it's going to go. You never know where that.
So
it could be your next partner, it could be your next golfing buddy, it could be his best friend. But regardless, you're in it for, make relationships and build your business, even though you don't have to work. It's something you do.
it's fun.
Yeah. So I do appreciate you coming on. So I've had people on from a 19-year-old. No, 18. He wants to be an investor. He came to me and said, "Hey, I want to shadow you and work for you for the summer." I'm like, okay. 18 years old. He was still in high school. So I had him on. I had somebody from Egypt, from Cairo, Egypt. He was in here. Super amazing story. Came from nothing. Came over here. And then we've had Jeremy on, who's just turned 30. He has a nice portfolio. He started young. He's an agent. And then we had someone from the older generation. Older, I'm pretty close to you, so don't take that wrong. But you're 62. You started when you were 46. I mean, that's incredible that you had the fortitude to stay with it and to even start. Really, just to start at that age is hard. So I've had a myriad of different guests on, and this has been my pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.